Hello TCG and Lorcana enthusiasts, and welcome to my first ever Lorcana deck profile. Anyways, we have two decks we will be looking at here today. My version 1 of Amethyst Stitch Snowball that took me first place at Mario's Luxury Lorcana Locals, a free tournament that is fully allowing proxies. So if you're looking for a place to test out Lorcana decks or even try the game yourself, that's a great place to go. Again, it's a free Monday tournament, full proxies allowed. But anyways, this other one up here is a version 2 of this deck that is much more optimized for what I have here. New cards to ramp up the engine, better cards to play in this deck. Probably an overall better version of the deck that allowed me to take first place. So we'll be looking at that as well. Now I would like to mention that I do have a gameplay footage for this because Mario was streaming his Lorcana Locals, so I was of course playing for top place, so I will be doing a reaction video of his stream and my thoughts of the gameplay and how I could have done things a little differently. But for the second version, if you guys want to see gameplay of that version, you guys need to hit the like button 10 times. 10 likes and I'll do a gameplay footage of the version 2 of this deck. So let's talk about Stitch Snowball. If you don't know what Stitch Snowball is, it revolves around Stitch Rockstar. When this card is on, while this card is on the field, whenever you play a character with 2 costs or less, you may exert them to draw a card. Now typically you can't exert a card the second it's played because it's drying. Basically, in essence, you just painted them onto the board and now they have to dry. But Stitch allows you to immediately exert them so you can draw a card. The whole gimmick of this deck is to spam weenies of 1 cost or 2 cost all over your board and then swing in next turn with all of your lore and then just win. Easy. Now this deck does have a few follies. First, it does not like steal. Steal has grab your sword, which deals 2 damage to all characters on the board, and then it also doesn't like Big Tinkerbell. Big Tinkerbell, when played, deals 1 damage to all characters on the board. In essence, it's a pseudo board wipe. Not mentioning also doesn't like Smash, because that deals 3 damage. And if it's running the Emerald engine, it does have access to like Stampede, which can also deal damage. Also still has Fire the Cannons, which deals 2 damage. So in essence, Steel has the ability to just spam out a lot of damage all over the place, which does harm Stitch a lot. Second, it does not like Ruby for 1 card. Be Prepared. Be Prepared is a 7 cost board wipe. That's all it does. It just wipes the board completely. Because I'm going to let you know, the entire deck of Stitch Snowball, no matter if you run it with the Amethyst engine, an Emerald engine, any Sapphire engine, Ruby engine, Emerald Steel engine, it all revolves around this Stitch. So if this Stitch ever falls down in combat, or is banished, or is removed, the entire deck just stalls to a halt because it's meant to spam guys onto the board. Again, this deck does have the problem because all its 1 cost and 2 costs are kind of weenies, so their defense or their survivability is pretty low. As you can see here, 1 cost, 2, 3. So, I mean, a Big Tinkerbell and a Grab Your Swords will wipe out all of your 2 cost weenies for sure. Even a Big Tinkerbell will wipe out most of your little cost weenies. So yes, like I said, it's a deck that spams itself out wide, and if it does and your opponent can't counter it, well, then you'll just have too many guys on the board and your opponent will just have to watch as you just gain a whole bunch of lore and win. So again, hitting 20 lore wins you the game. So anyways, let's break down this first place deck. We have 𝐒𝐓𝐀𝐘. He is good for his support, meaning that when he quests, you can add his attack value to anyone. So if you needed, say, this Stitch to punch over something, or you needed this Maximus to punch over something, or you needed someone like the Brooms to punch over something, then go right ahead and do that. I'm running 2 Lilo. She's just here for the 2 lore. That is basically it. Now, if you're new to Lorcana, you're wondering, what is this symbol and what is this symbol? In Lorcana, you're allowed to build your deck with any 2 colors. That being Amber, Amethyst, Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, and Steel. This little symbol means inkable. So when you play the card, you reveal it to your opponent and you flip it face down and you put it into Inkwell where it will live forever. Currently, we have no cards that can take cards from our Inkwell and put it onto the field. Also, there are no cards that allow us to see what we have in the Inkwell. So for instance, if you're playing a Sapphire deck, Sapphire likes to ramp, so it likes to take a lot of cards off the top of your deck and stick it into your Inkwell. You have no ability to look at those cards. So whatever card you took off the top and put it face down, well, let's hope it's not a card you needed. But anyways, then ink is just generic then. You don't have ink that's exclusive to Amethyst. You don't have ink that's exclusive to Amber or any one of the colors. It's just generic. So if you're coming from Magic the Gathering where you had to say this needs plains, this needs swamp, we don't need that anymore. Everything is now just colorless in essence. But anyways, we have 4 of the generic stitches. Of course, the stitch that we want to be shifting our Stitch Rockstar over. We'll talk about that when we come down to him. But anyways, we have 4 of the Maleficent. Again, she's just a 1-drop for 2 lore. We have 4 Olaf. Again, we just want to have a lot of weenies in our deck. 4 Olaf. We have 4 Pascal because it's really nice because if you happen to have multiple Pascals on the board, they all give each other evasive. Because what Pascal allows you to do is that as long as there's another character on the board, he just gains evasive. So only characters with evasive can attack him, which is very nice. So mainly meaning he just kind of sits there and just gains lore for you all the time. Especially if you Stitch Rockstar him, you can just bring him in. And because there will at least be the Stitch Rockstar or maybe even another Pascal, the Pascals give themselves elusive. So meaning your opponent can't hit them unless they have a card with elusive as well. We have 4 Mini. We have 4 Simba. This Simba is very nice because it has the Bodyguard. So meaning Bodyguard means it can be played in Exerted because normally they come in unexerted, so they come in straight. Exerted means you just tap it. So it can come in Exerted and then trigger this Bodyguard, which means if your opponent wants to challenge or fight one of your characters with one of their characters, they have to actually go through Simba first. So a good combo to play is either this Lilo or this Maleficent first turn, second turn, you ink another card, and then you play Simba Exerted, and then tap either of these 2 to gain immediately 2 lore, and your opponent cannot target these with a card because they'll have to go through the Simba first. And most 1 to 2 cost cards are pretty weenie, so Simba will easily beat them because he is 2 cost. Now Olaf just happens to have 3, so you know it's pretty nice, and Mini has 3 as well, but most of the time he'll beat over most. We have some Brooms here. The Brooms are very nice. It allows you to cycle cards from your discard pile or your opponent's discard pile back into your deck. So very nice if you just need to cycle stuff out of your graveyard back into your deck. Also really nice because what this does is it allows you then to cycle a card from your trash, put it back into your deck, and then immediately draw a card thanks to exerting it with Stitch. Yzma is basically whenever she quests, you just look at the scry at the top of your deck, so basically you look at it and keep it at the top or the bottom. Maleficent, when she plays on the field, she'll let you draw a card. Then Mickey Mouse himself, this is a good combo. If you're going to play the Brooms, I highly recommend playing this Mickey. Because what he does is he decreases all the Brooms' cost by 1. So if you have 2 of these Mickeys out, these Brooms are absolutely free. And not mentioning that he can return the Brooms to your hand if they are banished in a challenge. It's not your turn when they challenge. Anytime they are challenged and banished, you can just add them right back to your hand. Now it has to be in a challenge, so if your opponent board wipes them or just kind of knocks them out with normal damage, you can't add them back to your hand because it wasn't a challenge. But what this combo allows you to do is that you have the Mickey on the board, you just start swinging in with your Brooms to knock out your opponent's characters off the board. Mickey will bring them back to your hand, and then you can cycle them back onto the field again, cycling your drop zone or your opponent's. For instance, you're playing a deck that you know your opponent needs to bring stuff out of their trash and get it back into their hand with a card like Part of Your World, which allows you to return a character to your hand. If you know you're going to play an opponent with that card and you know for a fact they have like a Stitch in there, you can shuffle that Stitch back with the brooms. And not mentioning that if you shuffle it back with if you shuffle a card from your opponent's trash back into their deck, you actually get to draw the card. So you do get a +1 here for shuffling cards back to your opponent's deck. So very nice. Again, if you're going to play the brooms, I highly recommend playing this Mickey. We have 4 Maximus for his bodyguard and his support as well. He does give support 4. Again, support only triggers if you decide to quest with them. And again, bodyguard only triggers if they're exerted, so you're going to possibly quest with them. Anyways, we have the namestay himself again, Stitch Rockstar. Shift allows you to pay 4 to place it on top of a character named Stitch. So you could put it over this one. Do not put it over the big cost Stitch. Put it over the little Stitch. That's why we have play the little Stitch. Now, one thing you can do is at turn 3, if you have this Stitch out by turn 3, you can actually, if you have a card right here that we'll talk about, you can actually then shift immediately into that Stitch. Also, the same turn you play out this little Stitch, you can shift into this Stitch. Just understand that this Stitch still recognizes the Stitch under it was still played that turn, so it still can't quest or attack or do anything or sing a song or anything of the like. It's just there, but immediately allows you to activate the Adoring Fans ability, which, by the way, it's just whenever you play a 2 cost or less, you may exert it. So it's not a once per turn, it's not a once per card, it is as many times as you want, however much ink you have, for every 2 and 1 cost cards you play. So yes, it's just amazing. Playing it gives you so much value if your opponent just leaves it completely alone and doesn't swing into it, or you just keep it unexerted, so you just keep it straight up. The only way your opponent can deal with it, again, is if they can deal damage to it like Steel can, or kill it off with like what Ruby can. There are cards that will turn into the Inkwell from like Sapphire. I think it's Let It Go. Has a song that will push this card into the Inkwell. So yeah, if your opponent doesn't deal with this, you just ramp up a lot of guys and a lot of value really quick. And then finally, we're playing 4 of the Stitch Surfer. When you have 2 or more characters, when you play this character, you have 2 or more other characters in play, so it's others, so you doesn't count him. So you must have 2 other characters in play to draw 2 cards. Very nice, because he is a 4/8, which means he does quest for 2. He's a 4/8 that quests for 2, but most of the time you can easily just punch over a lot of things. For the songs, we have, of course, our 3-cost song that can be sung by anyone down here. It just allows you to pot agree. Just draw 2 for a 3-cost, or you can sing. Now, when you sing, you exert the character that's going to sing the song, but that's all they can really do is exert, so they can't do anything else. There's not many cards in here that allow you to restand after exerting. There are some. But this is really nice because then you'll be able to just draw 2 straight cards from the singing, or you could pay the 3 ink to sing. But still, pot agreed is pot agreed. If you're a Yu-Gi-Oh player, you'd understand. And then finally, Lantern. So items automatically dry the turn they come in. Now, I would like to mention one more thing. If you play a Maleficent that turn, you cannot immediately make that Maleficent sing. So you'll have to wait a full turn before this Maleficent or anyone that you play any turn that can sing this song. They have to wait 1 full turn before they can sing. So anyways, I'm playing 2 Lantern for friends. I don't know if I said that, but anyways, 4 friends, 2 Lanterns. So basically, items immediately come in. They're immediately dried, meaning the second you play this, you can just reduce the next guy you play by 1. If you play multiple Lanterns, or the 2 I have, you can reduce cost by 2. In essence, by turn 3, like I said, if you have this Stitch out, you can, by turn 3, pay your 3 ink and pay a Lantern, immediately shift into this Stitch. By turn 4, you'll have a shifted Stitch Rockstar, that your opponent may or may not have to deal with, which by turn 4, they really don't have a lot of kill spells that can do it. So you just have this Stitch up, and then by turn 4, you can spam the board with 4 ink. Actually, in essence, 5 ink your board. So by turn 4, you're just spamming up the board. By turn 5, you're basically winning. Your turn 6, you're golden. You're probably going to win the game. So this is a deck that took me first place. It was a lot of fun. It really worked, but after watching Mario's version of his deck, which was Amber Steel, I realized my Amber engine needed a lot more tweaking. There's a lot of things I think I need to take out, I needed to change, I needed to add. So let's talk about that version of the deck. Once more, if you guys want to see gameplay footage of this version, this updated version of, again, that being Amber Amethyst Stitch Snowball, you guys need to hit 10 likes on this video and I will do a gameplay footage using this deck. So anyways, let's talk about the changes. We are bumping up 𝐒𝐒𝐄𝐄 to 4, bumping up Leo to 4. Stitch is still at 4. We're still playing the 4 Maleficent. We're still playing the 4 Pascal. For Simba, we are still running the Broom engine with the 4 Broom engine with the 4 Mickey engine. We're still running the 4 Maleficent, but what we've added is Rapunzel. Rapunzel states, when you play this character, remove up to 3 damage from one of your characters. Draw a card for each 1 damage removed this way. Now, Lorcana works as a ready, set, draw. So there's very little cards that ready just yet. I supposing as we get into more chapters, they will be cards that will ready. Set means you unexert everything. Draw means you draw your 1 card for the turn. Now, the first turn player won't have anything to do with that. First turn player doesn't draw. So you just get your 7 cards and you immediately get into the action. But then everything happens around a main phase. If you're a fan of Digimon, you know what this is. If you're a fan of Dragon Ball Super, a couple of Bandais where everything kind of happens in this one main phase and you can constantly go back around to it. So if you want to play your 1 ink for the turn, you can do that. If you want to swing and then play your 1 ink for the turn and then quest, you can do that. Basically, you do everything in the main phase you want to happen. So if you have out this Stitch and you want to swing over one of your opponent's guys, killing it off with your 3 damage, you can do that. But if you deal, say, that character deals 3 damage back to you, that's pretty dangerous. The Stitch only has a will of 5, basically 5 health. Well, if you put down Rapunzel after that attack, you cure that 3 damage and you draw 3 cards. Good value. I'm going to let you know as we hit the middle to late portions of this game, you're going to find you're going to have like 1 card at most, if not 2 in your hand. This gives you hand value out the wazoo, especially if you are playing Amber. I think this is a highly, highly needed card in any Amber version because it just heals 3 damage, up to 3 damage, and how much ever damage, up to that 3 damage you healed, you just draw a card. So if you heal 2 damage, draw 2. But what this also allows you is because you know your opponent's going to be targeting that Stitch to get rid of it. So if we have you're playing a steel deck, and they say deal 3 damage to this Stitch with Smash or the Big Tinkerbell and grab your swords, 3 damage. Well, next turn you play Rapunzel, immediately heal that 3 damage. Again, Stitch Snowball revolves around him. If this Stitch card falls in battle, is destroyed or banished or just wiped off the board, this deck just kind of crumbles a little bit. It just goes extremely, extremely slow and your opponent will then catch up. The whole reason to play this deck is that you are spamming guys to win the game by turn 6. This deck is not about slow playing, it's about ramping guys onto the field and going quick. Much like Sapphire in this game currently likes to just ramp up cards. So, that is a major inclusion right now in any Amber deck, I believe. So anyways, it just buffs and heals the Stitch. And then we're playing 2 of our Surfer Stitch as well. Again, mandatory 4 of this Stitch. So anyways, we have adjusted our songs. We're now playing Be Our Guest. This allows you to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and add any character card to your hand. So if you're missing Little Stitch or Rockstar Stitch, or if you need to find Rapunzel, not mentioning that because we will be spilling out 2-cost dudes all over the place, this is a great time to utilize it. So if we have a Simba that just came out on the field that We know we don't want to quest with it. Well, we can just tap down that symbol using Be Our Guest to allow it to basically, in essence, be bodyguard, but also allow us to search the cards we need. This is very, very strong. Part of Our World. This is a 3 cost that can be sung by 3 cost characters. So basically, in essence, Maleficent up can sing this to allow you to get a character from your discard pile back to your hand. Again, the brooms are nice to shuffle stuff from your trash or discard pile back into your deck, or even stuff from your opponent's discard pile back into their deck to stop them from using like Part of Our World. So if you're like playing the mirror match and they have a Stitch in their graveyard, you can shuffle it back with the broom so they can't be Part of Our World back to their hand. Again, this deck all revolves around this one guy. So this just allows you to return a character of your discard pile back to your hand. In essence, the brooms shuffle and then allow you, and if you have Stitch out, to exert to then draw one. But this just adds it back. So if you know for a fact you have a little Stitch in your hand that you played last turn and you need to get the shift Stitch, then you can do Part of Our World and then utilize like the shift mechanic on it. Again, if you have enough lore, but we will be adjusting how we get, or should I say enough ink, and we'll be adjusting how we get more ink. So I think this card is now more imperative in this deck because, again, people are hunting to kill this Stitch right out, whether it's by Dragonfire, whether it's by damage, whether by any means. Again, if you happen to be facing Sapphire and Sapphire does Let It Go, which then spins it back, spins it into your Inkwell, you can't do anything about that. You can't get it out of your Inkwell. But again, this deck revolves around this card, reason why we are playing a card that heals it to draw cards, gaining its card advantage, a card that allows us to search the pieces we need, whether it's the big Stitch or the little Stitch, and Part of Our World to allow us to grab Stitch Rockstar from our graveyard back to our hand so we can constantly have this card. We are still playing the 4 friends because, folks, if you're going to play Amethyst, play this card. It's just Pot of Greed, folks. It's just Pot of Greed. Hey, look, Pot of Greed and a possibility of another Pot of Greed. So, drawing is very important. So, very good. And then we just buff the lanterns up to 4. Again, this automatically dries. So, if, say, for instance, you only have enough lore to use this card, but you have a bunch of counters, but you don't have enough lore to use this card and then shift. But if you have lanterns out, you can tap the lanterns after using this card to then just shift into your Stitch. It's amazing. It really is. Lantern, again, another major mandatory card for any Amber decks, just because being able to reduce a cost of 1 without a cost to anything, you just need to tap it, and you automatically just reduce the cost, is very, very good. And I think Steel currently, is the only color, and I may be wrong about that, correct me down in the comments, that can currently destroy items. That is the better Stitch Snowball Amethyst Amber deck. I think if I was going to bring this deck once again to another one of Mario's LLLs, Luxury Lorcana Locals, LLLs as it's shortened, I would definitely be bringing this version of the deck. I think this version is much better, and I think just more coherent. Again, the Stitch Snowball deck is very interesting because the Steel version, everyone believes that that's the better secondary engine to play. So you play all the Amber cards right here. You'll just, and not this Stitch. You probably won't be playing this Stitch in any way. So you can knock out this Stitch, knock out all of the Amethyst cards, and then run the Steel engine in your deck. Or you can run the Emerald engine. Their Emerald is a gimmicky deck, has fun gimmicky cards. A lot of their cards have weird effects, but still, there's a lot of good cards in Emerald. I would also say Ruby is probably not a bad color to combine with Stitch Snowball, but the problem is a lot of their cards are very high cost. Sapphire is all about ramp, but I don't know if you want to ramp this deck. The deck is about spamming guys. So I think if you're going to choose an engine, I think the 2 engines that I think are going to be the most common are Amethyst and Steel, and I think Emerald will be a third close. But there's nothing wrong if you wanted to play the Amber Stitch Snowball engine, and then run in like the Ruby engine where it has more kill spells in it, or the Sapphire ramp up really fast to get into your Stitch Snowball. So it's really on your discretion how you play. Again, the Amber engine that's in here is about the common engine I think all Stitch Snowball decks will be playing. So, once again, if you guys want to see gameplay footage of this version of Stitch Snowball, 10 likes and I will do it. But, let me know down in the comments your thoughts on both Stitch Snowball decks. Let me know, are you excited to play Lorcana? Are you going to try out Stitch Snowball? Is this the first deck you're going to build? Let me know down in the comments all of that. Let me know if you're going to join the Luxury Lorcana Locals. Again, it's a free tournament with full proxies allowed. Great time. Again, if you're looking to try out the game, you want to, before it goes live on the 18th your locals, you just want to try out a deck. That's a great way to do it. And let me know what adjustments you would change to either deck. Let me know what engine you'd rather play. Do you rather play the Emerald engine, the Ruby engine, the Sapphire engine, the Steel engine? Let me know what cards you'd change. And all of that down in the comments. And while you're commenting, do make sure to like the video. Do make sure to ring the bell. And do make sure to subscribe. Once again, 10 likes. And I will do a gameplay video of this version of Stitch Snowball, the better version of Stitch Snowball. But do be on the lookout. I will be doing a reaction video to this version of Stitch Snowball because I was on Mario's stream for the top table to figure out if I actually was going to get first place, which of course I did. So I will be doing a reaction of that and my plays and how I felt about the deck at that time. So be on the lookout for that. And we'll see you here next time on Mama Dragon's TCG.